Really cool final boss. Part of the moveset is lowering your FPS below 30 mid-fight and also cast FPS stutters as an attack effect. Yo, what's up? Today we're diving into the dark depths of Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. This expansion takes the brutal, mind-bending world of Elden Ring and cranks it up to 11. We're here to sift through the saltiest, most savage reviews and roast them like marshmallows over a campfire. Buckle up and grab your Estus flasks. It's going to be a bumpy ride. The reason I give SOTE negative review is because many of the main bosses are now just simply a series of cheat tricks being spammed repeatedly at insane speed that chunk your health. They are not fun to fight with the Dark Souls-style player combat system used in Elden Ring. I personally gained no satisfaction whatsoever from defeating any of them, instead only a feeling of the kind of relief that comes after you remove a splinter. The difficulty at this point simply boils down to the bosses tricking you into rolling too early or late and then frame catching, roll punishing you for not getting a frame perfect roll, a roll that has input delay on it as it only occurs after the button has been released, meaning that the roll is based on prediction instead of reaction in many cases as the bosses delay an attack only to release it instantly. I also have noticed that many times that the hitboxes seem to appear before the weapon is actually swung. This means you have to learn each individual boss's extremely specific timings on so many of their attacks to avoid them because they don't make intuitive sense. In the past, the way you'd avoid these delayed attacks is by outflanking them, but they now give most of these bosses near infinite tracking on their attacks, forcing you to time a dodge the way the devs want. And some of these attacks have way too many active frames, so they will automatically hit you even if you roll into them. As many others have mentioned, the camera is totally abysmal for many of the bosses. It's at its worst for the Divine Beast and the final boss, where much of the time you cannot see what the hell is going on because the camera is too close to the point when the boss is clipping through the screen. This is made even worse when they're filling the area with various elemental attacks whilst being right on top of you. I really hope for their next game to bring back mechanics from Bloodborne and Sekiro to make dealing with these sorts of bosses actually fun as well as challenging. I have a great appreciation for FromSoft. They are one of the last truly high-integrity, well-meaning and talented dev teams that remain in the gaming industry. So when they make a mistake, we must point it out instead of heaping relentless praise upon them so that can make better games in the future. Yeah, so you're saying the bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree are like that annoying kid in Dodgeball who just spam throws balls at your face at light speed? Huh. Sounds like From Software's bosses have hit the gym and learned a few new tricks. And by tricks, I mean they've gone full psycho on the spam button. But come on. Where's your sense of adventure? These bosses are designed to give you that adrenaline rush, not to hand out participation trophies. You're saying they trick you into rolling early or late. Sounds like you've got some trust issues. But seriously, mastering those timings is half the fun. Think of it like a dance, except your partner is a giant, angry beast that wants to smash your face in. Infinite tracking on attacks forcing you to dodge perfectly? Sounds like a job for patience and strategy. Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but let's face it, you didn't sign up for Elden Ring to have an easy time. You came here for the challenge, and the game delivers that in spades. About that camera, it's like trying to film an action movie with a GoPro strapped to a squirrel. Yeah, it's bad, really bad, especially when you're up against the Divine Beast and the Redhead duo. It's like they designed these fights to give you a cinematic experience, but the kind that makes you want to throw your controller through the screen. As for bringing back mechanics from Bloodborne and Sekiro, you've got a point. Those games had a different kind of flow that might help balance things out here. But remember, FromSoft likes to mix things up, keep us on our toes, and occasionally on the edge of a nervous breakdown. And hey, props for showing love to From Software despite the frustration. They are indeed one of the last bastions of hardcore gaming. But yeah, constructive criticism is key. We all want them to keep pushing boundaries and making better games. I hope that the person who did the balance will be fired. Game is way too hard. I wanted a refund and can't get one. Do not buy this. Skill issue. As for refunds, yeah, that's a tough one. We've all been there, wishing we could return something that just didn't sit right. But let's be honest, if you're jumping into a From Software game expecting a casual stroll in the park, you're in for a wake-up call. It's a challenge, and part of the ride is embracing that brutal difficulty. But now you have an easy mode. The presentation is gorgeous. Art direction and music are a 10 out of 10. However, the gameplay makes the game hard to recommend. Spastic bosses with jerky roll-catch movements and a plethora of physically nonsensical moves make the bosses in this DLC hard to put up with. You can just spam weapon arts and chug your flasks, so they'll run out of health sooner than you do, but it won't be an enjoyable experience. As someone who beat all the FromSoft games with gimped LVL1 characters for fun, the base game included, I'll be calling quits on this one. It's fine if enemies jump high, fly or do magic, but changing trajectory mid-air, floating ominously and having impossible pauses mid-movement to throw the player off their reflexes is atrocious design for an action game. I'm not making mistakes because my reflexes are weak, but because I can't see what's happening. Enemy movements are specifically designed to not make sense to make the fight more difficult. Apparently rolling when the enemy swings his sword is not good enough. Now you have to memorize how much delay there is between each specific sword swing combos slashes mid-movement. Once again, this difficulty is made redundant by the absurdly powerful weapon arts the player is given. So we end up with a game that's not hard to beat, but where engaging with the boss's mechanics is torture. How dreadful. Also, performance is total ass. I have above recommended specs and there's a tremendous amount of frame drops, especially during boss fights. I'm fine with games needing stronger computers, but why lie about recommended specs on the store page? I expect consistent 30 FPS or higher. Alright, so we've got a performance rant here. FPS issues? Yeah, it's a bummer when a game can't run smoothly, especially when you're trying to dodge attacks and not just frame drops. But let's be real, FromSoftware has always been about that tough-as-nails experience, not necessarily pushing tech boundaries. It's a pain, but it's not like the game suddenly becomes unplayable. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but don't let the frustration with the performance cloud the fact that the game still has some incredible moments. Gorgeous presentation? Absolutely. The art and music are top-notch. But saying the gameplay is a nightmare? Come on. Bosses might have quirky moves, but that's part of the charm. FromSoftware loves to keep you on your toes, and yeah, sometimes it feels like the enemy is dancing to a beat you don't know. It's not about memorizing every move to the microsecond. It's about adapting and overcoming. And sure, the weapon arts are powerful, but they're there to give you options. If bosses were too easy, the game would lose its edge. Only reason I'm playing this game is because my girlfriend left me. I don't want to play this shit anymore. Come back. Whoa, sounds like you're using Elden Ring as your new therapy. Look, we get it. Sometimes when life throws you curveballs, you need something to keep you occupied. But if the game is more frustrating than your breakup, maybe it's time to switch gears. Think of it this way. If the game's making you wish for a redo button, maybe it's time to hit pause on both Elden Ring and the relationship blues. Instead of grinding bosses, try grinding out some new hobbies or hanging with friends. Who knows? Maybe you'll find something even more epic than your next boss fight, like a fresh start or a new love for something less rage-inducing. And hey, don't let a game get in the way of your recovery. When you're ready, Elden Ring and its challenges will still be here, waiting for you. Not like your ex. A huge letdown in comparison to the main game due to an empty, boring map with bad traversal and lacking story. Oh boy, someone's not happy with the DLC. So, you're saying the map's as empty as a shopping mall on a Tuesday, the traversal feels like wading through molasses, and the story's about as engaging as watching paint dry? Ouch. Look, I get it. Expectations were high after the main game blew everyone's minds. But come on, calling it a huge letdown is a bit much. Elden Ring didn't exactly come with a GPS and a guide to happiness. It's always been about exploring and piecing together the story yourself. The map might feel barren, but maybe it's just an opportunity for some good old-fashioned soul-searching and accidental parkour. And as for the story, FromSoftware loves to keep us guessing. If you're expecting a blockbuster plot with neat little bows, you might be in the wrong game. Sometimes the lacking story is just their way of making you work harder to uncover the epicness. So, yeah, the DLC might not be everyone's cup of tea, but don't let that sour your entire experience. What the fuck with that fucking last boss? Fuck you, FromSoft. For the last review, let's talk about the final boss. Oh man, I hear you. That last boss really knows how to throw a wrench into your plans. It's like FromSoftware's way of saying, hey, you wanted a challenge. Here's your Everest in boss form. Seriously though, it's not a FromSoft game if you don't want to toss your controller across the room at least once. They've got a knack for making sure that final boss is the stuff of nightmares. But hey, If you didn't want to face an unspeakable horror in your final showdown, you probably should have played a different game, right? At the end of the day, they're not trying to be nice. They're trying to push you to the edge of sanity. So, take a deep breath, maybe throw a pillow or two, and remember, the agony of the last boss is just part of the twisted love From Software has for its players. And so, end video.